One challenge, one gap that I often see in messaging and storytelling, something even I've been guilty of, is that we assume people understand what we mean. Sometimes we go from point A to point B without actually building the bridge. And that can leave people confused, not totally sold, or sure of what to do next and whether they want to be at point B. So that's the boba I'm spilling today. Hi, I'm Justine, messaging strategist and copywriter for phenomenal equity-driven women of color entrepreneurs, leaders, and creatives, here to bring our brands alive with strategic messaging and storytelling that sells. So, how do we fix this gap? How do we fix this logical? How do we build the bridge from point A to point B in our messaging? I don't know if this ever happens to you, but this happens to me all the time with my partners, with my parents, with sometimes even friends, sometimes even myself, because my brain moves a million miles an hour and sometimes my mouth can't keep up with my brain. And that is, we think we're being really clear, but we're not. I'll give you a really basic example. So, as some of you know, I am also a screenwriter and I love writing rom-coms. Now, sometimes I'll get a note back from executives that says, we need more love. We need to see them fall in love. I'm not buying that they're in love and that this is a romance. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, I could totally see it. I could see the spark in their eyes. I could see the little flirtations. I can see the hand holding and the touching and the little banter back and forth between them. But sometimes what's so clear in our heads, because we live in the world we're creating, for those on the outside reading in, trying to enter the world, sometimes we just have to spell it out, no matter how unsexy it might seem. But it doesn't have to be unsexy, I promise you. There are definitely ways to build the bridge, fill the logic hole, because otherwise we leave room for them to make assumptions, and sometimes the wrong assumptions. Like Kamala Harris, in her book 107 Days, she talks about how she thought the differences between her and Joe Biden would be obvious. But she thought very wrong, because the differences were not obvious. Yes, the differences in their personal history, their personal professional history are different, but how they would lead differently, especially since she was his VP, were not that obvious, and they needed to be spelled out, because also some of the things that she might have thought were obvious differentiators might not be the differentiators people were looking for. Clarity trumps everything in really powerful messaging. For example, if we're talking about values-driven leadership, and we keep saying that term, but we never define it or paint a picture of what that means to us. The words may sound nice and people might go, oh yeah, that sounds good. But when you really sit down to ask them if they understood what you're selling, if they understood what you're offering, if they can communicate back to you what you're offering, a lot of times they won't be able to. They won't be able to articulate clearly and specifically what it is you're selling them. People need to be able to envision themselves in your world, in your offer, in your vision of leadership. So take a look at your website, your next email, your next post, and check. Am I actually being clear? Am I actually building the bridge between point A and point B? Or am I leaving room for my audience to have to guess in order to get to point B? Do they have to make assumptions, or is there room for assumptions? Because again, they might make the right assumption, but they might also make the wrong assumptions. So we need to stop assuming People know what we mean if we aren't actually painting the picture and drawing the lines clearly. It's one of my biggest pet peeves and frustrations in life. So remember, when in doubt, spell it out. And if you found this a helpful reminder and want more of these bobalicious messaging and storytelling insights, subscribe. Thank you.